speech has been, I heard many people talk about freedom of speech the most, and many people have been questioning whether their freedom of speech was being limited by any means, or whether hate speech is defended by freedom of speech. And many of you guys may have some other similar questions, but most of the questions that I came across were all talking about verbal speech. But now, for millennials, most of the time when we communicate with other people, we text, we post on Facebook, tweet, and do things around social media. So then I was asking myself, wait a minute, is everything that we say under social media defended by the First Amendment too? So it brings me to my question, how should the right of free speech function in social media? Right, and the First Amendment, freedom of speech, is much more than just giving any individual the right to voice his or her opinion. And in fact, can I get a volunteer from the audience to read the slide? Again, Emily.
The First Amendment guarantees freedom concerning religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. It forbids Congress from both promoting one religion over others and also restricting an individual's religious practices. It guarantees freedom of expression by prohibiting Congress from restricting the press or the rights of individuals to speak freely. It also guarantees the right of citizens to assemble peaceably and to petition the government.
Yeah, you can give her stats. So, I mean, this is perfect, right? This sounds perfect. Gives the rights to individuals to speak freely, gives them the right to protest. But it doesn't really specify whether or not whether or not hate speech is also defended by there. What if an individual wanted to talk bad about someone through the media and social media, and technically they have that right to speak freely on their opinion, but yet they're also engrossing on other people's dignity. And this question came about just a few months ago. I have a non-Muslim friend who posted this comment in Facebook saying how he's a Trump supporter. And I know how many people here may feel about Trump supporters, and he was just speaking on how he would be a great leader. And as soon as he sent that post, within minutes, he just received a stampede of racist responses. And not only were they racist, they were really hateful. They made him feel like some type of way. They made him feel like he didn't belong in society. And many of them were saying, well, you didn't have that right to be posting, especially since you're in Chicago where the minority are the majority. And it got me questioning, wait a minute, he does have that right. Just because it's defended by the First Amendment, he has the right to do whatever he wants to do. And technically, they don't really have a right to stop his freedom of speech. And one of the main questions why I focus on social media is because we are the millennials, we are the users that really need to focus on how we use our speech within the social media. I mean, back when I was a freshman, I was sitting in your guys' seat back there. I would say right after Paul Walker passed away, I saw this in this comment section in Facebook. Some person was just alluding to the way Paul Walker died in a comical manner. And right away, my first instinct was, wait a minute, this isn't right. So I typed in some little paragraph. And I mean, I was just a freshman, so I didn't know what was going to happen next because that was a public page. And by the time I knew it, I received 900 different responses. Some were really supportive, others sounded really educated, but the majority of other Facebook users, they just randomly insulted me and saying, no, he's just a kid, he doesn't know what he's talking about. They were swearing and doing things around that nature. And it was, well, of course, anyone would feel I doubted myself whether or not it was right to speak. And that social media, it's really easy to say things just because you're behind a surface, you're behind a computer. And time is moving pretty quick, but I just want you guys to contemplate on scenarios where you guys may have some sort of similar experience, where you guys may have sent a post or said something, and maybe the effect was positive or negative. Like, don't get me wrong, like speaking freely is also a really positive manner. And the reason why it's a positive manner is because this is social media. The main aspect of social media is for networking. So I put 3 different like people to represent something else. So Beyonce represents celebrities. This activist group named Anonymous represents all the other activist groups trying to get your attention. And then we have Donald Trump. He's a politician slash businessman, and he also represents like big corporations. So many celebrities use the social media to catch our attention and just for us to interact with them. First and foremost, we can interact with any one of these guys, which I think is pretty awesome, being since it's in social media. We could, if Donald Trump does a post, we could like tweet him back saying how we disagree or agree. And that goes for any other corporation. Many corporations actually use social media in order for them to know what to expect for their clients, in order for them to, as a marketing purpose. The Anonymous group uses many videos and articles posting in social media in order for us to know what they're trying to, the meaning they're trying to bring out. And then celebrities, they entertain us, of course, but it's also an opportunity for us to like maybe try again, message them. I know many friends that get really excited when one of them celebrities starts following them. But yeah, so going out to social media, how we could use freedom of speech as either a positive or a negative thing. We could either use it for hate speech and try to harass someone, or we could try to use it to network and try to open up more opportunities. So freedom of speech is a really big privilege to have. And these are just some of the statistics why I find freedom of speech, hate speech in particular, to be a problem in not only the US but in other nations. I mean, as you can see, monthly over 1.65 billion Facebook, there are over 1.65 Facebook users, 1.3 billion Twitter users. But of those users, 60% of the internet users have seen some sort of offensive name calling. 53% have seen some sort of people trying to embarrass someone. And in fact, 81%, I didn't put these stats up there, but 81% of the people have agreed that if they were to bully someone, they were to bully them online just because it's easier to get away with, and you don't have to actually confront them in person. And another not fascinating, but like eye-opening stat was 1 out of 10 children will actually have attempted committing suicide just because what other people have told them in the media was really hurtful. So all this, how can we tie this back? So how can we fix this? How can we actually stop hate speech, which is a form of freedom of speech? So the reason we just can't like stop it and regulate it, it's not because it's an amendment. Actually, since the amendment only pertains to things that are around government boundaries, which social media, many times social media in terms of websites like Facebook, Twitter, and so on, they are owned by private corporations, which private corporations then have their policies, which many of us may skip over. But that's basically it. So that's basically in terms of how we just can't like impose a regulation or try to like regulate hate speech. Another reason is because I don't know many of you guys how really strongly you feel about your American ideals, but it's also an American moral. You shouldn't try to limit the freedom of speech. Many constitutionalists argue that you shouldn't try to limit anything that's in the amendment. So the solution I was thinking over and over, then how could we like just stop hate speech within the internet? And how could we like use the internet as a positive function and only a positive function? And that would be by creating a social norm, which is pretty hard to say. Like You can't just, it's like saying you want a utopian society. It's really hard to impose that. But one of the things we, especially for millennials, to like begin is by maybe having some sort of social challenges. Like the one that comes out of the top of my head is the ice bucket challenge. How many people wait? Obviously, like can't do a specific challenge like ice bucket, like. But similar challenges, if we create similar challenges to bring out awareness, and they may help us in the future. And also Vine videos, just maybe epitomizing or like imposing some satire in some Vine videos to have more people, more youth, try to use their freedom of speech for a positive reason. And just to bring it all back, obviously you guys are the participants of freedom of speech. So just keep practicing your voice and try to use your voice appropriately, and that's one of the main, that's actually how that social norm will be created.